You know, sometimes we don't leave because love has ended, but because that love has become something that hurts us more than it heals. You entered her life with the best parts of yourself, a sincere heart, and the belief that with enough patience and compassion, she would understand the value of this love. But then, you realized everything had changed. Her confidence turned into control, her charm into manipulation. Everything began to revolve around her emotions and needs, while you slowly withdrew, living in fear of hurting her, even though you were the one suffering. Your kindness was mistaken for weakness, your silence for agreement, and so, you left not because you stopped loving her, but because, in the end, you had to save yourself. What few people know is this. When a narcissistic woman realizes that you've truly gone, her deepest fear awakens the fear of being forgotten. At first, she'll pretend to be strong, smiling, convincing everyone she's fine. But beneath that facade lies emptiness and panic, as she begins to realize that no one will ever love her with the same sincerity you did. If you've ever wondered what happens when a narcissistic woman truly realizes she has lost the one who loved her most, keep watching this video, because next, we'll explore how she really changes after losing true love. You know what? The moment you truly walk away, that's when the real story begins. For a narcissistic woman, losing someone who once loved her genuinely is not a loss of affection. It is an earthquake that strikes at the very core of her ego. She does not cry, she does not beg, and she never admits the pain. Instead, she constructs a flawless performance, a radiant smile, bright photos, confident affirmations, "I'm fine, I'm happier than ever." Every detail is meticulously arranged, as if she has truly moved on to a new chapter, but in reality, it's nothing more than a thin shell hiding the growing panic inside. A narcissistic woman cannot tolerate the feeling of losing control. Your departure means she has lost power, the very thing that once made her believe she was special, lovable, and admirable. Therefore, she must do everything in her power to prove the opposite. She will change her appearance, become more polished, appear more frequently, laugh louder, not to live better, but to send a silent message: "You were wrong to leave me." Every smile, every photo, every post becomes a tool to reclaim the sense of control she has lost. But behind that confident facade lies a truth she can never face. She doesn't miss you, she misses the feeling of being noticed by you. To her, love was never about connection. It was a mirror reflecting the image she wanted to believe was herself. When you walked away, that mirror shattered. There was no longer anyone to look at her with admiration, no one to listen to her stories, no one to serve as the backdrop for her strong woman performance. And at that very moment, emptiness began to seep in quietly, yet violently. She doesn't know how to feel sadness, so she hides it beneath displays of grandeur. She begins meeting new people, seeking attention, creating fleeting connections just to fill the void. But the more she pretends to be fine, the lonelier she becomes, because the gazes around her no longer reflect what you once saw in her, a person who had once been loved sincerely. And that is what terrifies her the most. The truth is, the narcissistic woman is not truly okay. She is merely fighting to preserve the illusion of herself, the illusion that she still has control, that losing you doesn't matter. Yet every night, when the lights fade and the laughter disappears, she faces the one feeling she spent her entire life running from, the feeling of abandonment. That is the moment when the mask begins to crack. Because a narcissist cannot endure silence, for in silence, there is no one left to reflect the image they want to believe in. No audience, no admirers, no one to blame. And in that emptiness, she begins to experience something she has never truly felt before, the fear of being forgotten, not because she has lost love, but because she has lost the only mirror that once made her feel worthy. After some time, the "I'm fine" facade she desperately tries to maintain begins to fracture. When the attention from others no longer fills the void and loneliness becomes undeniable, she enters the next stage: blame and distortion. This is the narcissistic woman's favorite defense mechanism. Instead of facing the truth and taking responsibility for the pain she caused, she rewrites the story in her favor. And in this new version, you, the one who once loved her with complete sincerity, become the source of all her suffering. She begins with the same familiar lines. You're too sensitive when you simply express your feelings. You expect too much when all you want is to be treated fairly. You never understand me when you're only trying to listen. To her, every mistake, every crack in the relationship is your fault. Because admitting her own faults would mean looking inward, something a narcissist fears more than anything else. In psychology, this is called projection, assigning to others what one cannot accept within themselves. If she feels weak, she'll tell you that you're not strong enough. If she feels guilty, she'll make you believe that you're the cruel one. And if she fears being abandoned, she'll accuse you of letting go. All of it serves one purpose: to protect the victim image she's carefully built. What makes it dangerous is how skillfully she does it. She tells her story with half-truths, selective wording, altered context, and just enough emotion, and suddenly the whole narrative flips. To outsiders, it sounds convincing. You become the cold, heartless one, while she appears wounded and misunderstood. Her words spread like wildfire, isolating you not only from others, but from your own sense of reality. You start to wonder, maybe I am too sensitive, or maybe I really did hurt her without realizing it. That is exactly the moment she wants when you stop trusting yourself. Because the narcissistic woman doesn't need truth, she needs control over your emotions. When you feel guilty, she feels powerful. When you try to explain, she feels important. And when you fall silent, she believes she's won. Yet what she doesn't understand is this: the more she twists the story, the more she exposes her own fear, because only those too afraid to face the truth feel the need to rewrite it. Blame doesn't heal her, it only prolongs the illusion that she's still in control. Deep down, she knows something is cracking. After all, if she were truly innocent, why would she talk about you so much? If she were truly fine, why would she need others to believe she's right? This is the point where the narcissistic woman begins to lose touch with reality. She lives inside the story she's written, convinced by the lies she's told herself. But the harder she clings to her innocent image, the further she drifts from who she really is. And by then, the only thing she has left isn't peace, it's the haunting obsession with keeping her performance from collapsing. Because for a narcissist, admitting fault is like destroying the entire inner world they've spent their life constructing. So, they choose the easier path, blaming the one who left. And while you're trying to heal, she's busy retelling the story in a way that allows her to keep believing she was never wrong. Then, after all the defenses, justifications, and perfect performances, the truth finally finds its way in, not with noise, but with silence. One ordinary morning, she wakes up and realizes there's no one left to text, no one waiting for her to speak first, no one reacting to her anger or calculated silence. The whole world has gone quiet, frighteningly quiet. And in that stillness, the emptiness begins to take shape. A narcissistic woman is accustomed to living through reflections. She exists through the gaze of others, through attention, through the feeling of still being loved and desired. When you leave, she doesn't just lose a person, she loses the mirror that once allowed her to see herself in the most flattering way. At first, she tries to appear fine, but gradually, when her messages go unanswered, when her posts no longer spark a reaction from you, when your silence stretches on, she begins to feel something she has never truly admitted before: emptiness. Without you, her world suddenly loses its familiar sound, your comforting words, your patient replies, the warm presence she had long taken for granted. She tries to find that feeling again in new people, but everything feels dull, cold, lifeless. No one truly listens. No one understands the unspoken things as you once did. No one endures her sudden outbursts of anger with the same patience you did. And then, among the unfamiliar faces, she realizes no one can fill that void. That realization makes her restless and out of control. She begins testing whether she still exists in your world, a vague message, a cryptic post, a story meant to stir old memories. She doesn't actually want to return. She just wants to know she still has an effect on you. Because for a narcissist, the most terrifying thing isn't losing love, it's being forgotten. If you respond, she feels relieved, as if she's regained a fragment of her lost power. But if you remain silent, her fear multiplies. Because in that silence, she finally realizes what she's long denied. You are no longer under her control. You have truly let go. And when there is no one left to blame, no one to project onto, she is forced to confront herself, the very thing she fears most. That emptiness isn't just about losing someone. It's about losing the sense of self she once tied so tightly to you. She once believed she was strong, captivating, and worthy of love because you made her believe it. But now, without your gaze to reflect that image back, she begins to doubt her own worth. That is the moment when the narcissistic woman truly collapses, not because she lost love, but because she lost the only mirror that ever made her feel valuable. And in that emptiness, she doesn't just feel lonely, she begins to face what she has been running from all along. Her true self, small, frightened, and never knowing how to love anyone beyond herself. After drifting for days in that emptiness, when silence becomes unbearable, she begins to return. Not with an honest apology, but with familiar signals, a simple message, "How have you been?" A small emoji under your post, or perhaps, coincidentally, showing up somewhere she knows you'll be. To outsiders, it might look like a gesture of reconciliation, an attempt by someone wounded to make amends. But for the narcissistic woman, it's a test. Because she doesn't come back for love, she comes back to see whether she still has power over you. Narcissists cannot stand the feeling of being forgotten. They need to know they can still touch your emotions, still make your heart react, still make you respond. If you reply, even a little, she feels a wave of relief because it means she still has you in her orbit. But if you stay silent, if you maintain your boundaries, her panic deepens. She will try again, perhaps with sweetness, with apologies, or by reviving old memories. She'll say the things you always wished to hear. "I've changed. I understand you better now. I regret hurting you." But if you look closely, those words are hollow because they do not come from awakening, but from fear, the fear of losing control. A narcissistic woman doesn't come back to rebuild love. She comes back to rebuild her place in your heart. When you respond with hope, she feels powerful again. She'll become gentle once more, attentive, loving, making you believe that this time it's different. But the moment you let your guard down, the familiar cycle returns. Warmth followed by coldness, tenderness followed by cruelty. And you realize everything has fallen back into the same orbit where love isn't about connection, but about control. For a narcissist, love isn't an emotion to nurture, it's a tool to manipulate. She doesn't seek intimacy, she seeks energy, the kind that makes her feel significant. When she makes you happy, hurts you, gives you hope, then takes it away, all of it feeds her sense of importance. And that's why every time she comes back, the cycle never ends. The sad truth is, her regret can sometimes look real. She might cry, claim she's lost the most precious thing in her life, or speak about wanting to change. But if you look deeper, you'll see, she isn't mourning you, she's mourning the loss of the emotional supply that once fed her ego. Because for a narcissistic woman, losing a relationship doesn't mean losing love, it means losing the mirror that made her feel lovable. And so, the cycle begins again. A little affection to pull you back in, a little coldness to make you uneasy, and then a touch of sweetness to keep you from leaving. She doesn't realize that each time she does this, she not only loses you again, she loses her final chance to understand what real love actually means. Then, after all the cycles, the leaving, the returning, the endless repetition, things slowly become clearer. You might see her appear changed, talking about growth, healing, and how she's finally understood everything. She might share profound quotes, speak with a calm voice, or express gratitude for everything that happened. But if you look closely, most of it is still a performance. She isn't seeking transformation, she's seeking admiration. Just like before, when your love once served as a reflection for her ego, true change doesn't happen in silence or through pretty words. It's proven through consistent actions, through empathy, and through the ability to take responsibility for the pain one has caused. If she has truly changed, let time reveal it. But more importantly, don't wait. Your healing cannot depend on whether she becomes the person she should have been. Because the real ending doesn't come from her apology, it comes from you. When you accept that you loved with all your heart and chose to leave the moment that love stopped being safe, you didn't fail. You simply reached the limit, the point where continuing to love meant losing yourself. And that's not love, that's survival. Your love was never meaningless. You gave something real to someone who didn't know how to receive it. But understand this, that was not weakness. It was strength. The strength to love sincerely, to see clearly, and to let go when things no longer feel right. Don't wait for her remorse. She might regret, but that doesn't mean she knows how to love you properly. So keep walking, keep healing. One day, you'll meet someone who doesn't have to lose you to realize your worth, someone you don't have to prove yourself to in order to be loved, someone before whom you can simply be. And when that day comes, you'll finally understand why everything had to fall apart, not to punish you, but to make room for peace to begin.